running here at me, Houston, but I'm going to pick it up because...
anything that stares at you, you better pick up.
It's a glass, but in this sunlight, it's reflecting red, green, like a rainbow. Found the first prism on the moon, John. Something like that. 10 rock frags, a couple of which are, one of which is some interesting black glass along the sides of it. Another which is covered with black glass, and many little glass beads all over the place here, John. Oh, boy. That was one of those fractures that's all included with glass.
Okay.
Yeah, so those glass fracture sets. I think the after on this one will be pretty interesting. Here's a rock with glass splatter all over its body. Hey, Tony, I just picked up one that is in bag 15 that is has a black matrix, bluish black matrix with lap-like either clast or phenocryst in it. And it's right behind the limb here. I don't know whether that's what we're looking for or not.
Okay, that sounds good, Charlie.
الظاهر الزجاج كان وايد مهم لدرجة انهم طرشوا مهمات ثانية نفس ما شفت في الفيديو اللي طاف. كان يقول اخر الفيديو ان هذا الشيء اللي نحنا ندوره اللي هو الزجاج اللي فيه ماتريكس اسود او بما ما يسمى بمسكوفايت مايكا. خلينا نشوف اكزوليث لاب يشرح مسكوفايت مايكا.
Remember, we've got a plasma lab, don't we, down in Georgia. The very first time he simulated what this solar flash would do to the moon, to the lunar soil, was absolutely incredible. And then he blasted it. This is the equivalent black glass that they found on the moon. The glazing of some of the rocks that are in there is the exact glazing that was found on the moon. This required no meteoritic impact. It simply required the equivalent of a massive CME or nova shell discharge, or even what is possible through X-rays going through the vacuum. What you got on the left there is a piece of muscovite mica. This was taken here on Earth. It is only the third ever found rare cosmological event, they say. All of the black stuff around there, those are normal fission tracks. That's real cosmic rays. That's what cosmic rays look like when they hit. But there's this exclusion zone around what they call the rare cosmological event. They know for a fact that it's not electrons or positrons, and they represent a residually input positive charge that didn't discharge outward, but it discharged from the center. And it looks exactly like the cosmic jet that blasts out of a star when it's born. It looks like the cosmic jets that you see from the center of a galaxy when it eats a star. And so how do you get a residual positive charge to basically bathe a crystal such that it takes it in and it can't discharge it out? It's still bathed in the stuff. It has to discharge in the center. There's actually missing atoms in the center. Now, they're not really missing. And I would argue that, while not definitive, something tremendous from the sun.
There's two events happening here. When the sun novas, the heat from that nova and also cosmic rays, we get within 8 minutes of when the sun novas. Now, remember, for another 17 to 18 hours, that dust shell is still on the way. It hasn't hit until, I estimate, 17 to 18 hours after the nova. So the first thing happens is the surface is going to get melted and glazed. Ironically, the Torah winds up saying the moon turned red. Well, yeah, it turned red. It just got baked and melted. That's the glazing that Thomas Gold and others had noticed all around the place. Then the dust shell hits 17, 18 hours later. Several assumptions. One, you can't assume that this dust shell is homogeneous. Because the evidence we've seen both on the Earth and on the Moon, they have the different samples they brought back from Apollo 11, 16, 17, a few others. They had different chemical compositions. The same stuff they found in the South Pole and other places on the Earth. So when they say it impacts like another meteor, remember, these scientists can't think in terms of a sun noving. What I'm trying to tell everybody, this is not an easy process that happens. It's a complicated one. It's not just the sun. It's not just that the Earth stops its rotation and the oceans keep going. It's also the crust of the Earth, just like the oceans, are going to start banging up against each other. So after the moon gets glazed by and melted by the sun's nova, 70, 80 hours later, the dust shell comes and puts a fresh new load of dust on top of it. I mean, they're grasping for straws because they don't know where else or how else to explain it. Here they get a sample, matter in their hand, and they got a bunch of holes in it. A lot of the samples they're getting from Antarctica and other places, they don't know to try to get the fission tracks. Look for fission tracks. The stuff that came back from the moon in 69 and through the 70s, they were smart enough to look for fission tracks, and they found plenty of them. In fact, all the Gillespie, almost all the Gillespie that I know of, had fission tracks in it, and about 5 or 6 different radioactive elements. Aluminum 26, beryllium-10, a bunch of them, that could only have been formed from a stellar nova. You have to have relativistic temperature.
هناك أدلة في كل أنحاء العالم. هنا وجد عالم صلة شراكة في كل المواقع الأثرية في العالم.
Notice the twin dots on the two sides of these crudely crafted stick figures. One instance alone is just a curiosity. But widespread patterns must have an explanation. And other details only accent the irrationality. Recently, an answer to these mysteries came from outside traditional archaeology, from plasma science and laboratory experiments with electric discharge. Plasma scientist Anthony Peratt of Los Alamos Laboratories has shown that these stick forms recorded electrical events in the sky. Something like the northern lights we see today, but 1,000 times more energetic. And he matches the rock art forms precisely to the configurations taken by electric discharge in the laboratory. The rock art images are explained as sheets of intense electric current in the evolution of a plasma discharge. The central column you see in this stylized representation is the axis of the discharge. Wrapped around the axis is a torus or donut-like tubular sheet of charged particles. The observer sees through the transparent formation, champagne glass above, squashed bell shape below, so the plasma density is greatest at the limbs. Drawn in 2 dimensions, the formation matches the stick man carved globally on stone by the thousands. The 2 dots under the stick man's arms are the exceedingly bright, high-energy radiation called synchrotron radiation, emitted from the center of the torus. The current sheets continually warp as the electric discharge progresses, and this form is not uncommon. A 2-dimensional representation might look like this. Peratt's work has shown that the stick man, the duck-headed version of the American Southwest, and variations from Hawaii to Saudi Arabia, is a plasma discharge formation.